This week on Fantasy Football Reporters, we have the Week 7 contest results. We have the Bonehead Play of the Week. We have a week in review. We have the bust from Week 7. Some injury updates. We have predictions for Week 8. And that's it. Pass it over to Sean.
All right, we're going to start with the contest results of the stat challenge from last week. And it was John Price from Florida. I can't remember where he's at. Do you know?
No clue.
He lives in Florida.
He's from Florida.
And he's our first out-of-state winner. Congratulations to him. He gets the Gerard Mayo rookie. So now I'm going to pass it to Frank to talk about this week's stat challenge.
Week 8, Randy Moss coming back to New England after getting traded from them to Minnesota, where he played for many years and was really good. But we have a rookie card for Randy Moss this week. Worth a good amount of money, future Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
Pretty nice card. In very good shape. It's going to be his yards, his receptions, his touchdowns, and the tiebreaker is going to be the total yards for Minnesota's offense. So make sure you visit the site, fantasyfootballreporters.com.
Get those in.
Get them in.
Get them in.
Early and often.
Nice card. That's a good prize. One of our best prizes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Pass it back to Sean for the Bonehead Play of the Week.
All right, this week's Bonehead Play. We have, actually it's going to be two plays from the same team, but two different players, really. Philip Rivers was involved in both of them. So in studio we have Philip Rivers. How's it going, Philip? Thanks for joining us for the Bonehead Play.
I'm good. How are you?
So the first Bonehead Play, here we go. Is you make this pass over the middle, and this is this guy's first NFL catch, and he just throws it right on the ground and says, yeah, I'm in college. So how'd that make you feel?
Made me feel great.
All right, moving on. The next play, later on in that quarter, you drop back to pass here, and you throw what was ruled to be a lateral to who was it? Hester right here, and he just kind of lets it go, and that's a fumble. I didn't know if anybody knew that because everyone was just kind of standing around, but how did that play make you feel?
Also pretty great. My head's pretty square. I think I did a triple axel on that play. Made it hard to tell that it was actually a forward pass. I think I watched the film.
It wasn't, but okay.
No, I watched.
You saw it?
I think so. I'm a pretty smart guy.
Well, I mean, we're right here. You can see. What's that? That's forward.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, they robbed you.
Yeah, sure.
And you lost anyways, and you had 4 turnovers in the game, and that's never good.
My head's square.
Hey. Thanks for joining us on the Bonehead Play of the Week, and hopefully we'll have you in studio many more times.
I'm sure you will. I am a bonehead, and my head is very square.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right. We're moving on to the Week 2 review. We're going to start with QBs.
We'll go with Week 7 review on that.
Week
7.
Week 7 reviews. It's
It's the glasses. We're trying to be too cool this week.
It really is, and that's
too cool. What's too cool?
All right, starting with QBs. We got Carson Palmer at the top of the list with 3 TDs and over 400 yards. Next, moving on, he could be a free agent in your league, so check him out. Ryan Fitzpatrick, another free agent in many leagues, goes for 4 touchdowns, 382 yards. He did have 2 interceptions, and there was a stat correction for him in the middle of the week. He got 6 extra yards, so if you get a fraction of a point per yard or whatever, check that out. Eli Manning throws for 2 quick interceptions against Dallas, but comes back for 4 TDs, and he did have 1 more interception later in the game. Moving on to running backs, a guy who killed me this week, Darren McFadden, 4 total TDs, 165 rushing yards, and close to 50 points in most leagues. And he was questionable for most of the week. I think he was very limited in practice, and he played well. Michael Turner, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns against Cincinnati. Adrian Peterson, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and 41 receiving yards. Pretty good day for him. Thomas Jones, who actually has more carries than Jamal Charles this year, and he has more touchdowns actually, goes for 125 and a score. Moving on to wide receivers, Kenny Britt gets pretty silly with 225 yards, 3 TDs. The next guy also has a huge day, goes over the 200-yard mark, but less of a surprise, Roddy White, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lee Evans gets 105 yards and 3 TDs. Looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick is looking to air it out, and you think this is going to be something that continues in Buffalo this year?
Yeah, Buffalo is pretty terrible, as we've mentioned, week in and week out, and they're going to be playing from behind a lot. So if Fitzpatrick is a free agent, pick him up. He's going to have to throw a lot to stay close in these games.
And they really don't have much of a run game to speak of. I mean, Fred Jackson, C.J. Spiller.
Right.
Another thing about Fitzpatrick is in every start, he's made 4 starts this year, he's had 20 points or more, so that's something to look at.
Right.
Moving on to tight ends. Todd Heap, the only tight end with more than a touchdown, he gets 2. Jason Witten goes for 9 receptions, 95 yards and a score, and Vernon Davis stays consistent, gets 74 yards and a touchdown. Frank, now that Alex Smith is out for at least a couple games, Troy Smith starting for the 49ers, can you trust either Crabtree or Vernon Davis at this point, who's been so consistent?
Not really. I do like Troy Smith, though. Alex Smith has been pretty terrible with turning it over anyway. He's actually a pretty good quarterback, but turnovers have been terrible. Troy Smith, pretty efficient. He's a game manager, more of a Trent Dilfer type, and I think he'll be okay. Frank Gore, though, especially moving forward, will have a lot more fantasy value now.
So Vernon Davis, price stays about the same? I mean, does his value
Vernon will go up a little bit, I think, because he's going to be relying on his tight end more as a check down.
He's a big dude.
And Crabtree's going to get some more coverage, and I don't think he'll be looking down the field as much. So.
Yeah. Moving on to defenses. Last week, 0 defensive touchdowns. This week, 9 total. Cleveland grabbed 4 interceptions, returned 2 for TDs. Washington, 4 interceptions, all by D'Angelo Hall. He brought the last one back for a score. Chicago only allowed 11 points in their game, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, and 2 sacks.
All right.
Moving on from the week in review, we're going to go to the Week 7 busts.
Thank you, Sean. Going to be quick about this. Chris Johnson, 24 attempts, 66 yards rushing. Why has he been so bad?
Honestly, it's probably, I mean, this might sound a little silly, but he came out before the year and said he's going to rush for, what did he say? 2,500 yards.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
I mean, he has a lot of fantasy points.
He's his biggest fan, I think, at this point.
Yeah, 24 rushes for 66 yards. That's just terrible. It's less than 3 yards a carry. Miles Austin, 38 yards, no TDs. 2 bad weeks in a row for him, and now Romo's out. That drops Miles' value a lot. Larry Fitzgerald, 3 for 30. We thought he'd have an all right week, but he did nothing really. Wes Welker, 4 catches, 25 yards. Donald Driver, no points. I know he's been nursing an injury, but again, no points at all. Tony Gonzalez only 27 yards. Roddy White caught almost a million passes, it seemed like. And finally, Ryan Matthews, again, 8 rushes for 15 yards. I think he had 2 catches for 7. I mean, he's a first round. He averages a first to a second round pick this year. Why has the rookie been so bad?
Well, San Diego's looking to air it out. They're the number 1 passing offense.
Right.
And when Matthews had his ankle sprain there, they looked to Tolbert, and he stepped up. So I mean, I would say right now Tolbert's a better fantasy running back than Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews obviously has more upside in the future.
Right. And I think also that they're one of the true almost 3-back teams. They have like a 3-headed monster.
With Sproles
actually gets a lot of touches, and he's a quick little guy, and he does good.
Yep.
I'm going to pass it back to Sean for some injury updates.
Yeah, we have a couple injury updates to talk about. Carson Palmer missed practice Thursday with a hip injury, but he does expect to play Sunday when he was asked about it. Javin Best says he's very close to 100% after the bye, although he was limited in practice Thursday, but probably nothing to worry about. He had a turf toe that he was recovering from. Malcolm Floyd looks like he's going to miss another week with his hamstring injury. Expect him to return to full action after their Week 10 bye, after the Chargers' Week 10 bye. D'Angelo Williams is looking like a game-time decision on Sunday with a foot. Pierre Garçon didn't practice Thursday. Make sure to check his status before the game Sunday if you have him in there. For a full list of injury updates, visit our website, www.fantasyfootballreporters.com.
Right.
Pass it back to Frank for the Beast and Bust predictions.
Yeah, for Week 8, we have Arian Foster, who had a monster game the first game of the year against Indy. He's playing Indy this week again. Everyone knows Buffalo is last against the run and is going up against KC, who has Thomas Jones and Jamal Charles. So we expect both of them to have very big weeks. Frank Gore, as we already talked about, is playing Denver, who surprisingly is 30th against the run. I guess that shows why they're 2-4 or 2-5 at this point, I should say. So, yeah. Peyton Manning had over 400 yards against Houston in that first game, going back to that same game. So we expect him and Reggie Wayne to have big games. And a sleeper to actually watch this week is Jacob Tommy, the backup tight end, who's been dubbed a Dallas Clark clone. Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are number 1 in the pass this year, and they're playing against a banged-up Tennessee team who ranks 23rd against the pass. Rivers is throwing for over 317 yards a game, so we expect him to have a very good week against Tennessee. And New England ranks 30th against the pass, and good old Randy Moss is coming back to town, as we already stated. And I know Brett Favre's banged up; it might be Travarius Jackson, but still, the Patriots are 30th against the pass, yet they only have 1 loss. Are you surprised by that?
When you're that bad against the pass, that either means that you're blowing teams out, or and all they can do is pass to get back in the game, or your pass defense is just pretty terrible. And I think it might be a little bit of both. They got to gel, they got to come together. So I guess I'm a little bit surprised by that, but not too much.
Moving on to the bust, Kenny Britt, as we already talked about, had a monster performance last week, but he's going up against the number 1 overall pass defense in San Diego. I think the cat's out of the bag with Kenny Britt. He's going to go up against a very good San Diego team. Are you surprised that San Diego's record is awful as it is, seeing that they're the number 1 overall defense in the NFL?
If you looked at at their stats that we just talked about, you would think this team is flipped the other way, maybe 5 wins or maybe 4. But I'm very surprised that their record is what it is.
Right. Another game to watch is New Orleans and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's number 1 against the rush. On the flip side, they're 24th against the pass. So expect Drew Brees to have a good game, but the running backs not to. Chris Ivory, Pierre Thomas, who knows when he's coming back? I honestly don't know. And Reggie Bush said he might give it a go this week. Check back on our site for some injury updates as we get closer to game time. Also, New Orleans is actually 3rd against the pass this year, only giving up 179 yards. So Seattle and Oakland probably could be the game of the week. It's kind of a weird. It's kind of a weird stat line here. Seattle is 3rd in the league for points allowed, only giving up 17.8 points a game, behind only the Jets and the Steelers. So it looks like they're going to try to make Jason Campbell beat them, but McFadden might have a tough matchup this week because they are 2nd overall against the rush. So if you really need a quarterback, Jason Campbell, probably is a free agent. You might want to try him if you need him. If you have Tony Romo and your backup's terrible, having a tough matchup, then look for Jason Campbell. I think he's a free agent. 75% of the league's out there anyway. Probably even more. Yeah. Now on the flip side of the ball, Oakland's the exact opposite. They're terrible against the rush. They're 26th or 28th against the rush, and they're 5th overall against the pass. So we're looking for Hasselbeck to have his hands full in that game, but the rushing isn't good on Seattle. Justin Forsett and Marshawn Lynch could have okay games, but they're still they're splitting a lot of carries, and they haven't really had much of a run game this year. That's our show. You got anything else to add?
That's it.
Yeah.
Check out the site for the weekly contest for that Randy Moss rookie, one of our best prizes ever, like I said. And check the site for injuries and game time decisions, whoever's playing, whoever's sitting on Sunday for your games.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. You stay classy, San Diego.